Sithorn lowered his head as if observing a strange creature. I remember you, that arrogant human being. It turns out that you have gathered all the infinite gems in this universe, and you are in charge of the destiny. No wonder you dare to provoke me. Sithorn just glanced at it, and immediately understood that his profound knowledge and endless vision have long surpassed the imagination of ordinary existence, and a single glance can analyze all the connotations of time and space. Your arrogance will bring an end to you and your universe. Sithorn chuckled in a low voice, and a terrible red light burst out from the endless black magic all over his body. This was Chaos Force. Sithorn, who has mastered both black magic and Chaos Force at the same time, has specific strengths, even at the level of the multi-level universe. I will end your lowly species, or you will end me. You will know if you try, but you have to be prepared. The one who loses will end more terribly than death. You'd better pray not 25 fell into my hands. Martin raised his head and looked at the darkness and red light that was constantly pouring into the universe, his mouth curled up, revealing a sneer. Sithorn couldn't help but laugh. Full of ferocious laughter, he stretched out a finger, stained with countless souls and blood, and pointed directly at Martin. An arrogant human with 6 infinite gems in charge of the destiny? Oh, it's still a crawler. He has slaughtered too many universes. Reptiles like Martin don't know how much. Chaos Force is mine. Martin spoke indifferently, took a deep breath, and revealed his gloves. 6 dazzling infinite gems showed colors at the same time. 6 different energy beams rushed out frantically and slammed into Sithorn. Facing the multi-level universe Sithorn, I definitely want to directly explode the full power of infinite gems. If you use one gem to test it, then it will be a brainstorm. Buzzing. The entire universe was trembling violently, constantly collapsing, and began to recover under Martin's control, and was drawn out of even more powerful force to interfere with Sithorn. Martin's just the first attack has caused huge amounts of waves. In the bang, the magnetic glove on his right hand burst into horrible buzzing sound, bearing the load of huge amounts of. The power of the 6 infinite gems is first assembled through magnetic gloves, and then used by Martin and blasted towards Sithorn. It is conceivable that the power carried by the magnetic glove at every moment is terrifying. With every shot, Martin exploded with power, which is equivalent to Thanos' effort to destroy an infinity gauntlet's snapping finger power. Moreover, it erupts frequently. Fortunately, Cybertron relics are used. If Infinity Gauntlet is used to drive this force, it will simply not be able to withstand this horrible load, and it will be scrapped on the spot. Die, Sithorn. Martin had a fierce face. 6 rays of light swept across the entire existing world, covering everything, tearing through Sithorn's dark barrier, and bombarding Sithorn. At this level of confrontation, it is no longer an energy index confrontation. It is a bloody battle standing directly on countless time and space. It may only be the aftermath of a full-scale outbreak, which can directly bring countless births from the past and the future. The world is erased. Arrogant lowly creature. Sithorn let out a low smile that resounded through the multi-universe. After this finger was subjected to a strong bombardment, chaos force that could modify everything emerged immediately, and the red light flickered, directly pressing on Martin. Martin's face sank, and the 6 infinite gems burst into light, tearing through all obstacles ahead from all angles. For the first time, he truly realized the horror of the multiple-level universe gods. Sithorn's finger came over, not only attacking Martin standing here, but also including all Martin in the universe, all the countless timelines of the past and the future, the countless time and space. For the multi-level gods, above all time and space, Sithorn can just look at it, just like ordinary people reading a comic book, and collect all the actions, thoughts, and desires of each character's life. In other words, Sithorn is now looking down at Martin, but in fact, he is observing countless Martins at the same time. These Martins may appear over time and space, but it is also possible that it is just a false future possibility. At the moment, Sithorn was already watching. This is the real horror of the multi-level gods. Hit out with one blow, and at the same time attack the enemy's past and future. Martin's face was cold, and the light that came out of the 2 gems of space and time was particularly terrifying. He directly integrated all the time and space of the entire universe in his palm, and at the same time, the coverage of this blow against Sithorn was beyond imagination. One strike. Rumble. The ambilight burst out, and the entire universe began to collapse, but Martin directly used infinite gems to force everything back. This is the biggest drawback of infinite gems. Even if you have collected 6 infinite gems and are qualified to fight against me, you are still just a native product in a single universe, so fragile that it is not worth mentioning. Sithorn laughed terribly. He is a multi-level universe, and there is no self-indifferent time and space in the past and the future. In the entire multi-universe, Sithorn will always be the only one, and he cannot be created by the multi-universe replication rule. Because the specifications of multi-universe do not deserve to interfere with it. But Martin is different. If you don't forcibly condense all time and space. Think about it carefully, he now has 6 infinite gems, but he has 6 infinite gems in the past and the future, especially those in the false future. Infinite gems. Sithorn looked at Martin, who was busy condensing countless time and space, as if observing an active ant. Really, an interesting game. Martin was bathed in the terrible torrent and slowly raised his head. The power that directly involved the multi-universe, at the moment confronted Sithorn, causing huge amounts of waves. He looked up at Sithorn for a while, and finally sighed. Why? Do you want to ask me? Sithorn sneered again and again. No, just thinking, you are so lucky to see greatness beyond your vision. Martin laughed suddenly, slowly, a piece of supreme divine armor draped, and he took out the artifact that hadn't been used for a long time at the same time. Leadership module. There are 49 seconds of usage rights. At this moment Martin, it can be said that he has taken out all his whole cards. 6 infinite gems. Magnetic gloves. Supreme god armor. Tinder source. Leadership module. These artifacts at the moment have been blessed to yourself, directly pushing their power to the extreme of the moment. Interesting. I have never seen this kind of artifact in a multi-universe. Sithorn looked at it for a while, then showed a trace of disdain, raised his hand, and grabbed it in a sudden, red light flashing, black permeated, corroding all time and space and rules, and rushed directly to Martin. He doesn't need to be deliberate, because he is the only constant and diverse level universe god. Even if it is random shots, it is tantamount to condescendingly obliterate Martin from some levels. Congratulations, reptile, you died with the dignity of the god of chaos. Sithorn's gloomy words came out, and the entire universe began to reverberate. Martin looked up, and a sneer appeared on the face behind the helmet. The leadership module burst out with a terrifying luster. This power was instantly transmitted to the supreme god armor, coming in from the outside, covering it with a sneer. The layer is enough to crush the light of countless galaxies. At the same time, countless life and spiritual power spewed out from the source of fire in the body, and in a sudden, Martin's life essence began to pile up frantically, and the pace that should have been gradual, exploded at this moment in a frenzied manner. General growth. Coupled with the infinite power generated by 6 infinite gems at the same time, Martin at this moment has ushered in the peak of his existing stage in combat power. Boom. Martin blasted out with a blow. This punch, mixed with all his strength, punched out, in an instant, countless stars burst on the spot, turned into cosmic dust, and shook Sithorn. Suddenly, the collision that made other cosmic gods feel frozen in their souls erupted. Just a few particles that hit them had already blew them up on the spot, and some unlucky gods were instantly evaporated by the aftermath of this force, directly disappeared from this universe. Too strong. Far beyond the limits of a single universe. This terrible collision can even cause the top gods of the universe to fall into huge amounts of panic and despair together, as if for a moment, these gods suddenly turned into ants that were ignored by them in the past. They can only tremble. Trembling. This is Sithorn, the terrible Mephisto who is famous in the multi-universe. Countless cosmic myths have Sithorn's name. He symbolizes destruction and despair, and is the nightmare of all low-level existence. But why does such a Mephisto stare at our universe? Sithorn destroys the universe without a reason at all, it depends entirely on mood. Eternal Indifferent opened his mouth, raised his head, and stared into the distance. As one of the 5 creation gods, he has observed too many major events in the multiple-level universe. Even the scenes of the civil war of the second-generation gods back then, he knew a little bit about Sithorn. Cronus, the god of time, is always indifferently observing. If you look at it for yourself, you will find that his own physical concept has actually collapsed many times. Every battle between Sithorn and Martin caused the tragic destruction of the universe. As long as time is erased once, Cronus will be maimed once. Fortunately, Martin is always repairing the universe. Cronus can maintain his god position in this way. Martin's power is not only infinite gems, he also has such a terrifying unknown power. Kronos looked at the two fighting existences in shock. With his vision, he could not even see through these two existences. In the state of confrontation, the endless information captured at a glance is no longer the level that Cronus can touch. Too frightening. Sithorn is terrible, but now it seems that it is Martin that makes people feel more fearful and trembling. That mere human from Midgard still hides this terrible power. His own strength, plus 6 infinite gems, can actually face Sithorn. He is indeed the destiny of this era, and he deserves it. Even if Thanos gets all the infinite gems, I'm afraid he won't be able to do this step. Many cosmic gods were frightened, and the battle between these two terrifying existences shattered their self-esteem accumulated over the years. Now, they even need Martin to save them. There is no way. A deity hides to the edge of the universe with anxiety. Some have simply escaped from this universe, some have simply rushed to other universes, and the big deal will start again in a brand new universe. Boom. A aftermath spreads over. The universe collapsed. Those gods who had just escaped from the universe were bombarded and killed in an instant. The next moment, the infinite light flickered, and the collapsed part was restored in an instant. The gods who died in the confrontation were resurrected one after another. Only those guys who had escaped from this universe were obliterated and turned into an endless multi-universe. Insignificant dust. Madness. Frog looked at those escaping guys indifferently, with a cold face, and quickly described this unprecedented war, which is also the battle between mortals in the ancient Mephisto. Looking at the entire multi-universe, it is extremely rare. Boom boom boom. The terrible bombardment produced, solidified everything, collapsed everything. The entire universe collapsed instantaneously, but under the domineering force, it instantly recovered, was repeatedly ravaged, and was as fragile as a bubble. In an instant, a terrible brilliance enveloped everything, above everything, in the endless known and unknown. It seemed that only Sithorn and Martin existed. Sithorn uttered a surprised whisper, as if he was bitten by a creature he saw as an ant, and suddenly showed a surprised expression. On his face filled with black magic, there was something different from the past. Look. He really had a hint of interest. The humble human in front of him could actually rely on a lot of messy things to confront him head-on. Where did you get these weird artifacts on your body? Sithorn asks. He originally came only for Wanda and killed Martin, who was disrespectful to him, but he didn't expect to come to this universe casually and make such an interesting discovery. Can bring a touch of joy to his long life. When you are killed by me, naturally you will know. Martin said calmly. The light of the leadership module flickered, once again bursting out a powerful force, forming a synergy with many other artifacts, and once again raising Martin's specifications to an extreme state, which is enough to shake the multi-universe level. Vaguely, the unprecedented bloody battle between man and God has already shocked the entire multi-universe. This is a bloody battle between man and God. What is even more frightening is that this human being is sharpening his sword and intends to slaughter the gods in one fell swoop. Rumble. The scope of the battle between Martin and Sithorn is far beyond the limits of a single universe. Countless universes have been affected by this terrible battle. Especially when Sithorn unscrupulously broke out with black magic and chaos force, a random attack can make countless existences feel trembling and panic. Sithorn. This demon. What is this guy doing? He hasn't destroyed enough world. An unknown being is at war with Sithorn. Who is it that can force Sithorn to burst out of this level of power? One after another, their gazes spanned countless universes, and they cast all their gazes on the unknown universe. They tried to see through the terrible fluctuations that erupted from the horror. The sight was torn apart. An ancient existence looked at it solemnly, and various thoughts flashed in his heart. No matter who it is, being able to fight Sithorn to this step is proud enough. But no one thinks that the unknown existence will win. In fact, Sithorn is too terrifying. This is the Mephisto of the entire multi-universe, brutal and brutal. It was another horrible wave breeding that shredded a large number of surrounding universes. What really surprised some beings was that the universe at the center of the war was repeatedly reshaped. This was originally a meaningless act. Why insist on keeping this universe? If Sithorn can be defeated, the universe will be restored. Unless, the other party is just a cosmic god and does not have multiple levels at all. This discovery made many gods look weird, and many of them existed in the multi-level universe. At the moment, I saw the indigenous people in a single universe, and they were able to fight Sithorn to this step, shaking the entire multi-universe. It surprised them even more. Really, the gods were stunned to find out. Interesting. Sithorn shot again, destroying Martin in the entire universe, but was blocked by Martin again. His powerful attack that could shake countless universes was once again resisted by Martin, and even still in him. Terrible magic particles were torn off from his body. This change made Sithorn a little moved, and even more offended. Humble reptile, how dare you? Shut up, Sithorn, stop jumping like a CFBD, Liang Joker, quietly accept my trial of you, a lowly species. Martin sneered, and directly interrupted Sithorn's words. At the moment, the terrifying power that surged suddenly burst out and climbed to a peak again.
Especially, the fire source's reckless promotion to him, the crazy upgrade of his life level changes, although it has given him strong strength, he can exert the power of the Supreme God armor and the leadership module to a greater extent. But the price is equally obvious. That is, Martin himself is under more and more terrifying pressure, bathed in sublimation, but also has to endure the serious damage caused by this short and reckless promotion. Don't hold me if you want to die. The Phoenix force in the body was struggling desperately, yelling, but in the next second there was a terrible suction rushing to take away all the power from the Phoenix. Shut up. I don't want to be absorbed by Sithorn after I am defeated, and give me all your strength. Although it is weak, it can barely be used. Martin said indifferently, a little impatient. This little Phoenix really doesn't have a B number in his heart. Boom. Martin's power has skyrocketed again, and the artifact used has exploded with a more powerful power, with awe-inspiring and unstoppable force, which strongly tore open the massive energy field around Sithorn. Become the corpse under my seat. Martin whispered in a cold voice, raised his hand, and grabbed Sithorn with a condescending coldness, as if he was the supreme god, and Sithorn was a humble species from the beginning.
In fact, his attitude towards Sithorn was like this at the beginning. He had never been afraid of Sithorn because of his noble birth and respected status, let alone the slightest respect. It seems that Sithorn and the weeds on the roadside are essentially indistinguishable from each other. They are both killable and lowly born. In front of a cruel character like Martin, what can Sithorn's dignity count?
It's this kind of look. It's the same again. You human, don't have any respect for the noble gods. Where on earth do you have the confidence to rely on infinite gems? Just rely on these weird artifacts.
Sithorn was deeply enraged. This damned mortal, even after he personally felt his power and terror, he still carried that kind of arrogance in his bones. Why? You are just a lowly human. You are just a rubbish native from a single universe. Why can you always observe the noble me from a condescending perspective? Damn it. This human being, really damn it. Sithorn roared, setting off the turbulent waves that shook countless universes. His rage's roar and anger were transmitted to countless worlds and listened to by many powerful beings. Martin looked at Sithorn with an indifferent expression, and slowly said, Sithorn, there is one thing you have made a mistake. You have been wrong from the beginning. Are you a god? What level of god? Come to me. Say. Does it matter? Whether it is a man or a god, as long as it can be killed, it is essentially one thing and will die. That's enough. Martin slowly raised his head and looked at Sithorn, who was huge but was torn out by himself with a large gap. He suddenly showed a terrible smile. God of black magic, you will also die. If you are like this, follow your mind. The ants I trampled to death are the same. If I kill you, there is no difference between you and ants, right? Simple and rude. Martin once again showed the look of overlooking, stepping out, in the forest, murderous intent. The whole person turned into a bright stream of light, crashing into the endless red and black curtain. Tugging with his hands, a piercing sound but the roar of multi-universe resounded. I saw that Sithorn's huge and endless body suddenly showed a terrible scar. Although it was recovering quickly, there was still a scar. I am constantly getting stronger, and you have begun to weaken. Martin took a deep breath and secretly closed the leadership module, enduring the serious load and bursting of the fire source to raise the level of life regardless of the consequences, and his eyes moved coldly. It must be as fast as possible. Every time he uses the leadership module, he has less authority. But it doesn't matter, the remaining dozens of seconds are enough for me to deal with this guy. Martin sneered, and there was a terrible light in those eyes at some point. That is the passion to slaughter the gods, and there is also the ambition to step on the corpses of the gods to reach the peak of the multi-universe step by step. Phoenix Force fell into silence, constantly thinking about it, repeating words such as lunatic, neuropathy, and a deep sense of powerlessness. It felt that it would be impossible for it to escape in this life. What's more frightening is that this guy named Martin will definitely try to collect more Phoenix Force to swallow. If Sithorn fails to kill Martin, then there is no doubt that most of the Phoenix Force fragments are also it is definitely not Martin's opponent, waiting for the end of the major pieces, are being swallowed by Martin one by one. The thought of this made Phoenix feel desperate. Boom. Martin blasted out with a single blow, and the bright rays of light condensed all his strength. At the same time, in this blow, he opened the authority of the leadership module and suddenly increased all his own strength to the maximum. Hiss. Another terrible scar that reverberated through countless universes broke out. Sithorn roared, chaos force surged, and rushed towards Martin, but in the next moment, there was a loud noise, and Martin was already holding infinite gems from it. Killed out, and blasted through chaos forces restrained. The 6 infinite gems gathered together, and originally had the strength of a multi-level universe, with the ability to fight against the 5 great creation gods, not to mention Martin also has a supreme god armor that carries everything and has a strong defense, and a leader module to increase energy. When Martin tore a big scar on Sithorn again, he immediately spewed a mouthful of blood, and the face behind the helmet suddenly turned pale. The load is too great. Mainly from the fire source forcibly upgrading his life level, this reckless forcible ascension has produced a terrifying sense of depression on the carrying capacity of every cell in the body. Appropriate use of the fire seed source can provide me with a source of constantly life and spiritual power, allowing me to evolve every moment. But in a short time, regardless of the consequences, I force an explosive promotion. I didn't expect it to be so serious. Damage. Martin took a deep breath, feeling that a large number of cells in his body had begun to explode with terrifying power. After they died, he knew immediately that his time was running out. If you face the ordinary multi-level universe, you don't need to fight this step at all, but the opponent is Sithorn. The source of black magic is also in charge of Chaos Force, which originally has multiple levels of level universe. At this time, Sithorn uttered a terrible roar, and there was a sense of disbelief in this voice, and he couldn't believe that he was frequently harmed by this ant-like species. The black magic converged, chaos boiled and turned into a tsunami. Martin looked up and glanced up. 6 infinite gems immediately burst into 6 brilliant vortices, and then merged into one, and burst out, suddenly tearing the sky and the world. Tremor. Martin sneered again and again. The whole person jumped up, stepped across the long distance, and rushed directly into Sithorn's power range. The cold glow in his eyes, at the moment has been magnified to the extreme. Rumble. The explosion that shattered all the rules suddenly occurred, the black magic collapsed, the chaos force shook, and Sithorn suddenly let out a deafening roar. With this blow, Martin spouted blood again inside the helmet, his body began to collapse, cracks spread, and large patches of gray on the body surface, which were countless bedding dead cells. At the moment they have been given by the frequent surge of power. Killed. Fortunately, the supreme god armor that cuts off all prying eyes was enveloped, blocking Sithorn's gaze. Martin is still showing extremely strong and confident appearance, so that Sithorn's heart actually has a strong jealousy. This is for unknown existences, but also for things that stand in the same specifications as themselves and can harm themselves. A kind of suspicion. Your hesitation. Martin opened his mouth, hitting the nail on the head, even more contemptuous and calm. This made Sithorn even more angry, and the boiling power tsunamis broke out frequently, but the doubts in Sithorn's heart did continue to breed. He has survived for countless years, and he has personally experienced many multi-universe restarts. His eyes that can see all the growth trajectories of hundreds of millions of lives in the universe at a glance have given him insight into countless strange lives. However, he had never seen a weird guy like Martin. A weird and unheard of artifact. The body and soul that can hold this large number of artifacts, the superb vision from nowhere, better like someone who knows him very well, always with a kind of arrogance that spread from the bones. Take it easy. As old as Sithorn, I have never met a guy like Martin. The more he fought, the more jealous he became. In the same way, he clearly felt Martin's growing horror, even if he tried his best to use his powerful magic and chaos force to repeatedly kill Martin. But Martin was always able to fight out strongly, and terrible scars were left on him. Gradually, Sithorn suffered more and more trauma. The power he used, at the moment, also gradually lost the initial strength and burning. There was a faint state of weakness, although it was only a trace, almost non-existent, but at this moment, Sithorn was indeed shocked. But this deep doubt was caught instantly by Martin. You are fading, but I won't. I will only keep getting stronger. In the infinitely long future, you will be killed by me. Your corpse will randomly drift in the multi-universe and become me to show off my achievements. Specimens. Martin spoke indifferently, making frequent shots. Every time he shot, it seemed to be one time, but in fact it was the resultant force that integrated countless time and space. It was a superposition of hundreds of millions of times. At the moment, it hit Sithorn. There were terrible buzzing sounds, resounding through countless worlds. There was a roar like a beast. Immediately there is the endless collapse, the terrifying force that is enough to subvert the multi-universe, at the moment is beginning to collapse little by little, unable to escape into the entire endless universe. Hiss. Martin smashed out of the center of the whirlpool like a sharp sword. At the moment, he was already on the verge of a limit. Both his soul and body were on the verge of collapse and would collapse at any time. However, this radical behavior is still worthwhile. You lose, Sithorn, accept your fate. Martin sneered, looking nonchalantly, and at the same time raised his right hand. On the 6 infinite gems, the light of at the moment was also dimmed. Martin looked at Sithorn, slowly, and snapped his fingers after silently using the last second authority of the leadership module. Snapped. With a soft, crisp sound, it was obviously just a seemingly ordinary snapping finger, but in an instant, everything was covered. The world seems to have fallen into a stagnation, trance, as if it has undergone countless reorganizations and countless reshaping. An indescribable great horror swept through everything, and the many gods who looked over were shocked. The 6 kinds of powers mixed with other powers that they had never contacted were all buried in the snap of their fingers. Everything is shrouded. When the lingering rime dissipated, the blow that covered almost all areas, accompanied by a huge and terrifying influence, had already torn Sithorn apart at the place where the light dissipated. That endless black magic disintegrated at will and drifted into countless universes. That's not to say, even Chaos Force and at the moment have been partially defeated by Martin and dumped it into the endless multi-universe. It is conceivable that in the future there will be a group of lucky people who will become Sons of Destiny, who will accidentally obtain these escaped powers, leap into gods, and become another batch of myths that have risen sharply. Why, you reptile, how can you defeat my great black magic god? Sithorn growled in disbelief. Even if most of himself was defeated by Martin's snapping fingers, he couldn't care about it at the moment. He looked at Martin in shock and anger. He lost. A native, a humble human being walked out of a single universe, was defeated frontally in a one-on-one situation. I said from the beginning. In my eyes, you are a born humble species. Even if you are aloft, you just stand there waiting to be buried by me. In my eyes, you are a company from the beginning. Garbage creatures that are inferior to reptiles. Martin lowered his head and looked at his almost ruined right hand, watching the 6 infinite gems who had made this overloaded blow because of forcible urging, and fell silent for a moment. 6 infinite gems, covered with terrifying cracks, only need a light touch, and they will shatter with a bang. In order to make this snap, these 6 infinite gems have been abandoned. Even the magnetic gloves, at the moment, burst into sparks. A large number of internal science and technology systems have completely collapsed. If you want to repair this glove, it will cost a lot of money. But it is worth it. Even if it pays 6 infinite gems, magnetic gloves and the final use of the leadership module, it is still worth it. He defeated the terrifying multi-universe Mephisto head-on. I will be back. You better live and wait for me to find you revenge. Sithorn's giant image began to disintegrate little by little, and collapsed like sand. His spiteful gaze cast on Martin, whispering, and immediately, its final core, roar whistling away. He fled, embarrassed, carrying the last half of his power, and fled. Rumble. Faintly, in the depths of the multi-universe, there were terrible voices erupting, and the white light flickered and diffused. Obviously, a great existence took the opportunity to attack Sithorn, who was greatly injured. But these have nothing to do with Martin. It's a pity. There is still a lack of attack means to make a fatal blow. Let this bug escape. Martin's face was indifferent, and he took a deep breath, slowly reducing the power of the fire source, the level he was forced to sublimate. At the moment he began to fall a little bit, not a little bit. Martin's own body functions, as well as his soul, are all going to be exhausted. 1 cent. But the painful price paid is worth it. He defeated Sithorn, and it is foreseeable that in the next billions of years, Sithorn will not be able to return to the peak period, and with this kind of time, Martin has enough confidence to grow up. When we meet next time, Martin is confident that he will completely kill Sithorn. His gaze crossed the edge of the universe, beyond the boundary of a single universe, and he just stood in the multi-level universe with a glimpse of the stunning scenery that he observed, which is a memory he will never forget for a lifetime. Really, it is extremely beautiful. There are countless worlds, and countless gods are standing there. Infinite diversity is the truly grand battlefield. Martin stared at him for a while, constantly adjusting his own state, and finally stabilized his vital signs. The fire source in his body began to replenish life and spiritual power little by little, repairing it, and making Martin's life like the past. The level has evolved a little bit. This process is not fast, but the victory is stable, and it will not be like the hard-shaking Sithorn just now. Everything fell silent. Martin turned around calmly, stepped out, and returned to the universe behind him. On the right-hand glove, the 6 infinite gems emit a faint light, faintly roaring with the core law of this universe, but for the time being, there is no possibility of recovery. All of these 6 gems were damaged and collapsed from the overall level. Martin stands in the starry sky of the universe, looking at it. Everything seems to be peaceful and countless. The planets are turning, and the fixed stars are emitting light, but only Martin and the cosmic gods know that this universe has not been known for a long time. How many times it has been destroyed, but it has been repaired again and again. Looking at him one after another, all of them focused on Martin. The gaze of a cosmic god was complicated. In his eyes looking at Martin, there was more awe and face-up that never existed in the past. They finally realized the amazing potential of such a terrifying character as Martin. Congratulations, Martin, you saved the world. Death stopped in front of Martin, covering his mouth and chuckles. Martin glanced at the other person and said calmly, "When Sithorn appeared just now, I didn't see you, the creation god, come out to help me share the pressure. Now that the war is over, what are you jumping out for? Sithorn is here for you and your men." Death giggled. "You also know that it came for me, so what are you congratulating? Don't you go away." Martin's eyes changed, and he looked at the little watch of Death indifferently. Death's face changed slightly, all the disguise on that face disappeared, and a cold to extreme brutality was restored. This was her original face. "You have obtained the destiny and become the person to whom the destiny of this age belongs. From now on for a long time, the entire universe will favor you." Death snorted coldly. Martin was expressionless and stepped forward, throwing away Death and returning to Cybertron. Death stood there quietly, his face indifferent. "Do you really intend to admit his destiny?" Eternal appeared and asked in a low voice. "Definitely, it's easy to admit, but how long his destiny can last is another question." Suddenly Death laughed in a low voice again, full of strong malice. Martin returned to Cybertron, with a godlike brilliance, bathed in the respect of countless people. "Welcome back, Lord Creator. Many shape-shifting diamonds are waiting patiently for Martin. Wanda was even more tense, anxiously said, "Did you win, right? You completely defeated that demon?" Martin took a deep look at Wanda, nodded slightly, and said, "I did win. Half of Sithorn's power is not to be defeated by me. He has to face the enemies he forged in the past long years. He has no energy and ability to deal with me. It's a pity that he couldn't kill Sithorn in one go, which was the biggest regret." Wanda's body shook, and after a sudden sigh of relief, he suddenly relaxed, staring blankly at Martin with a calm face, as if he was just scrapping an insignificant guy. Finally, the nightmare that entangled her gradually faded away, and the terrifying Mephisto could be maimed. It was not the noble cosmic gods who could do this, but a human being like Martin. Humans have done things that even gods have never done. Assemble high-level planets. You have a meeting. I need to see Cybertron's overall plan for the next step. You have to develop a very detailed plan, especially in terms of climbing the technology tree. 25. Martin ordered. Everyone agreed seriously, and left one after another. Martin also hurriedly left where he was. He had more important things to do, and he was completely disinterested in paying attention to the minutiae, which were left to his subordinates. He is in a bad state now, and it takes some time to adjust. Not to mention, there is a more important thing, which is to re-examine the power he has at the moment. Infinite gems are almost broken and can no longer be used forcefully. It is no different from being scrapped, and the magnetic glove is also scrapped. Martin walked into his hall and raised his hand at will. In a bang, the vibranium gate, weighing dozens of tons, slowly closed, blocking everything out, leaving Martin a space for quiet thinking. The first thing, Martin looked at infinite gems, hesitated for a moment, and carefully removed the cracked infinite gems from the magnetic glove. After a little test, Martin knew it. These 6 gems are all useless. Among them, the 6 infinite gems of power, time, space, mind and reality have already fallen into a state of collapse, and even 1/10,000th of the power of the complete infinite gems is gone. If they are forced to move, they will be broken on the spot. What makes Martin more concerned about is Soul Gem. Martin took the cracked orange Soul Gem, examined it for a while, and then sneered. "Now that I know I'm pretending to be dead, do you remember what I said to you? When you fall into my hands, you will definitely pay a painful price. This is the consequence of your confrontation with me." Soul Gem still didn't respond. It looked as if the internal will had collapsed because of Martin's overload. Martin stared for a moment, a deep sneer on his face. Soul Gems will not collapse, because there is a huge soul world inside it. Martin stretched out his finger directly, and fiercely pointed it towards Soul Gem. There is no doubt that if Martin touches it directly, it will be destroyed as it is on the verge of its limit. The next moment, a sharp orange light burst out suddenly, enveloping Martin. Immediately afterwards, a door of the soul opened to Martin. This is a special world that does not exist in the time and space that ordinary people understand, and it specifically carries the soul. Martin looked around and saw that there were many figures walking and talking. Not all of them were people on Earth, but many of them were beings from other civilizations in the universe. He also saw Gamora. "Are you not surprised at all?" Gamora walked towards him and said lightly, "Even if you are the master of this world, I won't be surprised, because you have no value to surprise me." Martin said flatly. In the comics, Gamora is indeed the master of the soul world in Soul Gem, but what about it? Is it important? This did not stop him from being full of malice towards Soul Gem.
Soul Gem indeed selected Thanos at the beginning, because at that time Thanos was the future of this universe. If it weren't for your strong rise, the countless futures of this universe would have been filled by Thanos. He in the future, we should be able to have everything, save this world, and continue the life of this universe. This is something that has been engraved on the foundation of the universe and will inevitably happen.
However, you forcibly modified all of this and attracted the terrifying Mephisto, rewriting everything that should have been defined. Gamora snapped his fingers, the scene in front of him changed, and he came directly to the beach. The sun was shining. The beach. The sun umbrella. The juice exuding the chill. The noisy crowd. It looked like a beautiful scene. Martin looked at all of this, with a disdainful chuckle at the corner of his mouth, and shot directly, defeating everything in front of him in an instant. I don't care if you're Gamora or Soul Gem, or whether you're a shit fate or something else. I just came to Soul Gem to settle accounts. I am now a destiny. Now I am the whole future. I will follow what I said. Promise, completely kill Soul Gem's original will. Martin sneered again and again. In a crash, his current soul body immediately had terrifying spiritual power flooding in and began to erode the soul world. Gamora's face changed drastically, and she hurriedly said, "Stop it, at least Soul Gem also helped you repel Sithorn." "Help? That's because I am strong and can perfectly use the full power of the 6 infinite gems, and can save the future of this universe. I need it to actively help? If I don't take action, this universe will definitely be over. Thanos absolutely not Sithorn's opponent." The smile on Martin's face became more and more cold and cruel, eroding and occupying the soul world, and more importantly, searching for Soul Gem's will. The entire soul world trembled violently. "Found. Have you entangled with you?" Martin sneered, fixed directly on Gamora, then walked over and slammed Gamora on the spot with a punch. At the same time, he grabbed a stream of light in Gamora's broken soul. "Where do you want to go? If it wasn't for Sithorn, I would have killed you a long time ago, and you wouldn't have the glorious moment of defeating Sithorn with me. You should be honored." Martin sneered and opened his mouth, slowly tightening the power in his hand, murderous in his eyes. "It's better to get rid of the 2 or 5 boys earlier." Martin made a sudden effort. A vague roar came out, and there was no more movement, and the entire soul world was plunged into chaos and disorder, as if it had lost a dominant will. Soul Gem, dead. Snapped. The Soul Gem shattered on the spot, turning into tiny crystals. The other 5 gems also shattered one after another as if they had lost the last bit of support. Martin lowered his head and stared, then called Shockwave over. "Take these pieces of infinite gems away. I want to see the results of your research." Martin ordered. "I am willing to serve you, Lord Creator." The Shockwave gathered up a lot of fragments and left in a hurry. The study of infinite gems is a major subject. Even if it has become fragments, it still contains powerful power. Martin slowly took off the glove, looked at it for a while, and looked at this supposedly complete and powerful magnetic glove. At the moment, it became tattered, and he suddenly sighed with emotion. The magnetic glove, which he used as an upgrade version of Infinity Gauntlet, is also an unprecedented usage. With the current scientific and technological reserves, it is difficult to restore the magnetic glove to its original state, and it is estimated that we will have to wait a little longer. Martin groaned. Cybertron sacred objects, the levels of science and technology contained within it can be imagined, and the various levels involved are far beyond imagination. But don't worry now, you won't be able to use magnetic gloves for the time being. Let's start the lottery now, if only the hammer of Tianjiao can be drawn. Martin stood up solemnly, absorbed frantically in the pool, repeatedly rubbed it, and it was time to fight his luck again. It is best to draw one of the top 10 artifacts, Tianjiao's hammer. The hammer of Tianjiao, one of the 13 apostles, is the weapon of the master forge of artifacts, Sai Tianjiao. It contains hundreds of thousands of weapon manufacturing formulas. As long as the hammer of Tianjiao is in hand, it can be smashed against a pile of scrap iron indiscriminately. Smash into a powerful weapon. It's so unscientific and unreasonable. With the hammer of Tianjiao in hand, you can not only manufacture various level Godfather artifacts in batches, but also easily repair magnetic gloves. System. Collect the lottery information, Martin said. Dip. Congratulations to the host's prestige resounding through the multi-universe, and rewards a multi-level universe prestige lottery. Drops. There are 3 regular lottery draws this week. Break out Sithorn, get the power of darkness, and reward the artifact with a lottery. The sound came out quickly. Open the lottery. Martin opened his mouth and looked at the countless light curtains flashing quickly, with deep expectations in his eyes. The images on the light curtains are really attractive, all kinds of powerful weapons, technologies and buildings. Drip. Congratulations to the host for acquiring the special building, Karen Arena. Arena. All shapeshifting King Kong participating in the gladiatorial battle, growth rate plus 34%. Drip. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 1,000 units of red super energy crystal. Conversion gold. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the fortress-level shapeshifting King Kong Steel Dragon. Congratulations to the host for acquiring one of the top 10 artifacts, the Star Sword. A series of prompts sounded, and Martin couldn't help laughing. Sure enough. Washing your hands carefully before the draw is useful and has a metaphysical bonus. Among other things, the most important thing is the Star Sword, one of the top 10 artifacts. Among the pinnacle creations of Cybertron civilization, the one with the strongest offensive power. The Star Sword with the strongest attack, coupled with the Supreme God armor with the strongest defense, has these two artifacts. Even if Sidhorn is killed now to seek revenge, I can easily protect myself. Martin looked excited, directly raised his hand, and took the lead to visualize the Star Sword. An extremely luxurious long sword flew out, a little bit from scratch, flying out of the light curtain, floating quietly in front of Martin. The sword of this long sword showed a wide body, exuding a blue luster, as if it were polished from blue crystal, without any metal material at all. Even if he hasn't touched it yet, Martin can feel the sharp coldness from this strange magic sword. Star Sword. Martin looked serious, stretched out his hand, grabbed the hilt of the sword, and waved it slowly. As soon as I started, the weight of this sword was beyond imagination. It was like moving a mountain. With a random swing, a large steel wall was cut open in front. These buildings made of vibranium and adamantium alloy did not produce any obstacles in front of the sharp and invincible Star Sword. With a single sword, you can break the fixed star and sever the galaxy. After Martin can really use the full power of this artifact, even if a sword smashes the universe, it is nothing to be surprised. The Star Sword has this lethality. Martin looked at it carefully. This sword was always emitting a blue light, exuding nobleness and fierceness. After admiring it for a while, Martin made a stand out of a large number of mechanical parts, and carefully put the Star Sword on it. In the future, there will be countless gods trembling and wailing in front of you, and they will personally feel your horror, but now, it is not time for you to show up. There was a smile on Martin's face and another hole card. Next, he looked at the other prize draws. Not to mention the Karen Arena. One of the iconic buildings of the former Cybertron star, Martin was surprised that the Karen Arena also presented a Gladiator Champion clamp. Clamp, Gladiator Champion, Character, Courageous, Courage plus 20%. Height, 9 meters, Energy, 8 million, Body, Healthy. Combat Power, Level 3, Famous Saying, I am the King of Gladiators. Evaluation. Karen Arena Champion, cruel and violent, defeated countless challengers, until he was defeated by the new champion Megatron. He was the biggest rising star of Cybertron. The clamp is also an old hapless one, a good gladiator champion, but he ran into Megatron, who was still young and vigorous at the time and planned to build his prestige. After a few rounds, he was blown up. I hope you in this time and space can support you in the Karen Arena for a while, and stop being beaten by ruthless characters. Martin shook his head. Megatron must have no interest in paying attention to the clamp. Therefore, the clamp should be able to be a gladiatorial champion for a long time. Finally, Martin moved his gaze and put his face solemnly on the iron-armored dragon. Speaking of the biggest surprise, it must be the Star Sword, but Martin was also shocked to be able to draw a Fortress King Kong, and there was a lot of joy in his heart. This is the horrible Fortress King Kong. A shape-shifting King Kong is a living war fortress covering a vast area. It integrates firepower, storage, scheduling, and logistics into one. It can be called an invincible behemoth on the battlefield. At least in terms of size, apart from the shape-shifting King Kong on the two planets of Yuanxi Tianjun and the Great Universe, no one can be bigger than Fortress King Kong. The value of a Fortress King Kong for future cosmic wars can be imagined. Martin stepped out of the hall and quickly left the city to the endless wilderness in the wild, and began to throw out this big, outrageous hunk. Although I don't know how big the iron-armored dragon is, this endless wilderness can definitely hold it. Martin directly began to throw Iron Ankylosaurus. The rays of light were produced, and the huge iron-armored dragon was shaped little by little. This is a big dragon-shaped figure with a hideous body, like a big mountain, with a huge container on its back. Steel Anchovy Decepticons Legion, Titan Kong. Character. No brain, Wisdom 100%. Height 1,500 meters. Energy 500 million. Body healthy power. Level sub-god father. Famous saying. Complete victory requires complete destruction. Evaluation. The Iron Armored Dragon is a powerful Decepticon destroying machine. It is barbaric and has no humanity. He can't restrain the desire to destroy things, and also knows nothing about tactics, which makes him destined to become a tyrant. A destructive tool of Tianyu. The Iron Armored Dragon is the mobile fortress of the Decepticons. After transforming into a base, it has a maintenance station and a command center. It can be said that if there is no strong commander, he will be the lonely defeat of shapeshifting King Kong in the early stage. At the moment, a behemoth with a height of 1,500 meters suddenly appeared in the wilderness. Just standing there, the huge body suddenly stepped on the ground under his feet and sagged a large part. The terrifying body obscured the sky and the sun, blocking all vision. Ah, noble creator, who do I need to kill? As soon as 250 appeared, the Iron Armored Dragon roared up to the sky. This big guy resembling a Tyrannosaurus Rex, the sound wave that erupted was like a terrifying nuclear explosion, annihilating everything around it. You stay here until you receive a brand new order, Martin said, while looking at the outrageously big guy with admiration. The height of 1,500 meters, this is the manga version of the Armored Dragon. Martin kept observing, especially evaluating the data of the Armored Dragon, thoughtfully. The anime version of the Armored Dragon is only meters tall, while the comic version is more than 1,500 meters. In particular, he saw that the various data of the Iron Ankylosaurus were extremely complex, as detailed as every internal part. Martin was interpreting and evaluating it. This guy is really terrifying. Except that his brain is not easy to use, he really has nothing to say. He was originally a powerful level sub-god father who can play and carry. After becoming a fortress, the internal supply is available. Also has a strong firepower. No wonder, in the previous life, when the Iron Armored Dragon first appeared on the stage, it was able to make the Autobots do the same thing. Only Titan Giants can fight against this kind of Titan Giant. Before the appearance of the strong commander, the Autobots did not have any ability to fight the Iron Armored Dragon.
At this time, heavy footsteps came. Ah, I can smell the same kind of steel rope. There must be a dragon shapeshifting King Kong appearing. All dragons are under the control of my steel rope.
A pitch-black Tyrannosaurus Rex was rushing out of the Steel City, striding forward, with a trace of excitement, and a mind that was not easy to move, and roared from time to time with a trace of excitement. But gradually, his running pace slowed down, and his whole body was submerged in the shadows. When he came to the Iron Armored Dragon, he suddenly fell into a long silence. The atmosphere is a bit awkward. Ah, what energy crystal do you eat? Why can you grow so big? The steel cable roared to the sky, staring blankly. The thinking organs were a little dead. The 16-meter-high steel cable is completely incomparable to the 1,500-meter-high Iron Armored Dragon. He is like a small insect, shivering in the shadow of the Iron Armored Dragon. It was too scary, and the steel cable's already not very bright head was almost frightened at this time. Ah, here comes a dragon-like little bit, who is actually in the same shape as the noble Iron Armored Dragon. Rumble. The Iron Armored Dragon lowered its body, and such a simple action directly caused the frantic compression of the adjacent air. Every square centimeter of air at the moment is like an air cannon. When ordinary humans step in here, they will only be crushed in an instant. Pressed into mashed meat. What's more frightening is that there are terrifying noises that are enough to smash mountains and rocks, and ordinary life forms are simply difficult to approach. Otherwise the internal organs, CFBD, will be shaken and bleeding. The Iron Armored Dragon scanned the wire rope. The steel cable is also scanning the Iron Armored Dragon. Two Tyrannosaurus-shaped guys, at the moment, with big eyes and small eyes. Ah, since you are so good, I am willing to listen to you. The wire rope first roared. The Iron Armored Dragon called out triumphantly again, and the sound shook half of Cybertron. A large number of satellites in the sky moved over, observing the giant Iron Armored Dragon in all directions. Soon, all the shapeshifting kings of the whole planet knew about them, and they had a fortress-level Titan King Kong. The movement caused by this guy is really too big. Martin looked at the two Tyrannosaurus Rex, one big and one small, very speechless. At the moment they were talking in terrible language. Ah. I want to be as big as you too. Ah. This is not good, you are too young. These two guys both opened and closed with, ah. Their heads were not easy to use, and every sentence was a tiger wolf word. Martin left quietly. With these two dragons together, he really feels that his IQ will also decline, falling to the same level as them. Just when Cybertron enjoyed the short comfort after the war, and when it became lively because of the Karen Arena and the Iron Dragon. Earth. Many superheroes gathered together, and everyone's faces were haggard and uneasy. The space shuttle device is ready. We only have this opportunity. We must seize it. Mr. Fantastic Reed, the most intelligent man on Earth, at the moment, his face was serious and his instrument was revealed. Tony clasped his shoulders and couldn't help but said, "That's it. Are you sure you can do it? This is from Midgard's Earth to the world of the court, which is more difficult than ordinary traversing galaxies. You can use this instrument so quickly. Has it been developed?" Reed solemnly said, "I tried to analyze more than 1 million results, there will be no problem." Tony shrugged. Everyone turned their heads to look at the two Wolverine Logan. One of them came from a certain future Logan, who had prevented a generation of Ant-Man from failing, and now comes here again. And the other one is on the timeline now. I see, then, our task is to collect all the infinite gems, and then bring them back to fix everything, right? In the future, Wolverine will take down the cigar in his mouth. In the future, human beings on the Earth will be almost killed, but there will be no such good things as cigars. To be precise, it was brought to the time when you first came to this world, after erasing Ultron, and then returning infinite gems to the original place. Professor X said with a solemn expression. In the future and now, the two Wolverines shoulder the heavy responsibility of saving the two timelines. I will succeed, and when I do, I will leave this world forever. In the future, Wolverine finally picked up the cigar, took a greedily sip, carefully pinched it out, and put it in her pocket. When you succeed, I invite you to enjoy the purest cigar in the world, as much as you want. Now Wolverine hums twice and talks to her future self. It feels weird, but not bad? After the two Logans looked at each other, they immediately lay in the shuttle cabin. Mr. Fantastic Reed starts to activate the device. In an instant, a wave of capturing time and space occurred, and in an instant, the shuttle warehouse disappeared in place. Will they succeed? All our knowledge of Cybertron comes from the future Logan, and he doesn't know much. Magneto frowned. Tony's eyes flashed, and he said, "No, what you know is enough. According to the guy in the future, Cybertron is extremely powerful, and there are countless Wanda million-meter steel cities on the planet, which is extremely prosperous. As long as the coordinates provided by Logan are correct in the future, it will be successful." Roar. An obscure wave occurred. The shuttle warehouse designed by Reed can minimize all traces so as not to attract the attention of Cybertron. Where is this? As soon as the two Logans came out, they were dumbfounded, looking at the majestic large base in front of them, with a dazed expression. On this timeline, this should be the wilderness. I've been here before. It's absolutely correct. The future Wolverine was dumbfounded. Now Wolverine snorted coldly, somewhat dissatisfied. The time has changed, and it may be related to the terrible energy fluctuations from the depths of the universe. It can affect the operation of a universe, and it doesn't matter if it interferes with the timeline. They discussed in a low voice, planning to avoid the base carefully. Can be the next moment. Ah, look at the tightrope, I found two little bugs. A deafening sound suddenly sounded. Accompanied by deep laughter, the entire large-scale base began to change. Hundreds of millions of large-scale parts were rapidly rotating and assembled. Soon, the 1,500-meter-high guy immediately succeeded in shapeshifting, condescendingly watched the two people on Earth. Rumble. The iron-armored dragon's thigh opened a chain, and the steel cable jumped down directly, and fell in front of the two Logan with a boom. Ha! I know you. Your information is stored in the Cybertron database. The news from the sound wave is correct. You really are here. The cable yelled and threw his tail over. The two Logans cursed secretly and suppressed their horror. With a loud noise, the huge tail that was suddenly thrown away was kicked out. In an instant, All the muscles and internal organs were damaged, but after a few seconds began to recover. I want to see your leader. I come from the future, and I have important information to tell him. In the future, Logan felt the pain in his whole body and the shape-shifting King Kong from all directions. He made a decisive decision and immediately changed his tactics. Sure enough, the steel cable stopped, and looked at them with a distrustful look. He immediately snorted, feeling a bit bad, but he dragged the two guys directly into Cybertron like a dog to death, the capital of the stars. But it wasn't Martin, just these two things. He was not qualified to see Martin. He directly found Shockwave. From the future, Sasser stared at his camera-like head and looked up and down the two Wolverines for a while. A major change has taken place in the future. A terrible disaster will erupt in the 9 realms. Even Cybertron is not spared. In the future, Logan immediately shouted that this is what he relies on the most. It is his whole card to meet Martin to reverse all of this after his failure. But Sasser's response was extremely indifferent. We know what the disaster is, we don't need your intelligence, and the future you come from is only one of countless futures, and it has no value. The sound of the shock wave was extremely cold, and he lifted his arm directly, and a beam of powerful energy surging. He wanted to kill both Logan directly and then turn it into his experimental specimen. No, your time gem is broken. I know this, so you need me more. In the future, the entire world tree will fall into Ragnarok, and 9 worlds will be destroyed one after another. Future Logan shouted. Sasser moved for a while. Ultron. In the future, Logan shook his head, but closed his mouth tightly. He won't say until he sees Martin. Shockwave thought for a while, and nodded indifferently. Your answer is very logical and impeccable. I will give you a chance to meet the Creator. Without waiting for the two Logan to breathe a sigh of relief, he immediately grabbed the two guys and ran directly to the central hall. Push the door open. The two Logans saw that a tall man in a meticulous suit was holding his steaming coffee with his back facing them, looking at the blue long sword hanging on the shelf. What's the matter? Martin's voice came, without looking back. Sasser threw two Logan to the ground with a bang, and said indifferently, these two Earthlings, one of them is from the future, claiming that the entire world tree faces Ragnarok. Even Cybertron will not be spared. I assume 7,300 simulation results were used to confirm that their information is very valuable. Martin finally turned around and waved his hand, and Sasser immediately exited here. I know you have returned to the present from the future, but I didn't expect you to find Cybertron directly. I really can't underestimate Reed. Martin finally turned around and slowly raised his head. The handsome face revealed majesty, and his sharp eyes fell on the two Logans. Why did you know we're coming? Logan's face was ugly now, and his heart was terrified. It's very simple. When I owned infinite gems, I have seen countless timelines extending from this universe. Every timeline may be transformed into reality, and every timeline may be on a certain node. Eventually separated and became a parallel universe. Martin said lightly. The universe is constantly undergoing crazy self-replication, and countless parallel universes will be separated at all times. This is also caused by the world rule of multi-universe itself, and it is the true meaning of the word multiple, which symbolizes infinity. The multi-universe on Marvel's side is truly endless, but unlike the DC next door, after several major events, the entire multi-universe on the bright side was beaten by a lot of gods and only 52 orthodox universes were left. Counting the other hidden special universes, there are only up to 60. A miserable batch. Martin, who has observed countless timelines for a long time, knows many possible futures. The whole Earth is already under the monitoring of sound waves. As the commander of the Tape Corps, Sonic's entire Mong Saogai can capture almost all the information on the Earth, and the Tape Corps he leads has extremely terrifying monitoring capabilities. The Earth, in front of sound waves, has almost no secrets. Therefore, it is not a secret that superheroes travel to Cybertron to obtain the information of infinite gems. It has been transmitted to Cybertron by sound waves long ago. Let me guess, your future, the dragon that eats the world tree has come out. Martin took a sip of coffee and said lightly. Not only, that ghost also joined forces with Ultron and swallowed one world after another, and the whole world tree is about to collapse. Future Logan looked resentful. Martin was expressionless. That's it. Join forces. Two larger grasshoppers are just like that no matter how they jump. Moreover, in Martin's mind, the Ultron that has grown up is a bit more difficult to deal with than the magic dragon. In my timeline, Ultron can already jump through dimensions and travel through time. It may stand in the future and control countless robots to attack us now. The entire human race on Earth has almost been killed. The future Logan said lonely. Martin looked at him. After a while, he opened his mouth and said, "You are going to be disappointed. Infinite gems have been broken, and the remaining fragments have entered the laboratory for research. This universe. There is no infinite gems." What? Why is this? The faces of the two Logan changed wildly. Go ask Dr. Strange, he should know a little bit about this. In order to fight a terrible Mephisto, I burst 6 infinite gems and saved the universe and countless timelines in the future. Logan, you want to steal from me? There is no possibility of taking infinite gems back and turning over. Martin drank the coffee in his cup. Not to mention that infinite gems is broken. Even if it wasn't broken, he wouldn't take this thing to Logan. In the future, Logan's face was pale and desperate. Ruined. His timeline is no longer saved. Now Logan suddenly said with excitement, "You can make a move, right? Now you know in advance that terrible disasters will occur in the future, and you also know that Ragnarok will erupt in the future. Your Cybertron star is also one of the 9 realms, seen as a hunting target." Martin immediately looked at Logan with a strange look. Ragnarok, the world tree is destroyed. What does it have to do with Cybertron? As long as he wants, move Cybertron to other galaxies in minutes. The world tree in the life and death of many worlds. What does it have to do with me, Martin? I'm not interested in Ultron, it's just such an artificial intelligence, it's not worth wasting my time. Martin's eyes narrowed. Times are different. His main timeline has experienced the attack of the god of black magic and is the world at the forefront of all timelines. After crippling Sithorn, many things have changed. Ultron, the sound waves that are stationed on the Earth, are enough to suppress it for a long time. After Ultron grows up, Martin's shapeshifting kings will only become stronger. I have other things to do, and I'm not interested in paying attention to the house on Earth. Martin waved his hand. Strong pressure was generated, and directly threw these two guys out. The two Logans were dumbfounded. Playhouse? The shock wave that had been guarded for a long time grabbed them two with a cold face, and threw them into the shuttle cabin, saying indifferently, "Go back to Earth. Next time I break into Cybertron without permission, I will cut you off. I don't believe you can grow your body." Boom. The shuttle compartment started and disappeared instantly. Sasser stared at this scene, scanning and thinking repeatedly, and then left after confirming that it was safe. Martin stood by the window, watching this scene quietly. The current Ultron is not worth mentioning, and the magic dragon is nothing. Compared to these, I need time to rest. In the battle with Sithorn, his body and soul were severely traumatized, but under the warmth of the fire source, he has fully recovered. Now, just like the past, he is constantly improving Martin's life at a reasonable speed. Level. Compared to this, I care more about those guys. Martin raised his head and looked at the stars of the universe, his mouth gradually sneered. Earth. The two Logans escaped from the shuttle cabin in embarrassment. What about infinite gems? Tony asked quickly. The two Logans looked at each other with a sad look, and at the same time they took out the cigar and started smoking. The hearts of all the heroes sank. No, the infinite gems are broken. Martin said that he was fighting a terrible Mephisto and broke the infinite gems. Strange might know this. But we can't get in touch with the Conjurer. That guy seems to be talking about where he went with the Supreme Magician. Tony yelled, his expression irritable. The heroes were in trouble immediately. Future Logan said in a deep voice, "Infinite gems is broken, and there is no point for me to stay here. I want to return to my future. Maybe I can die with more dignity." Logan was never afraid of death, he had lived enough. All the superhero looked at Logan who was leaving, and fell silent for a moment. They really don't know what to say. Many heroes left anxiously. Soon, their words were collected by the ubiquitous Ultron, and a lot of information was derived. In a secret base somewhere, A large number of Ultron robots have gathered, the number is as high as thousands. Infinite gems are broken. My biggest obstacle has disappeared. The Ultron robot raised its head, with red glow in its eyes. Martin. It's really scary, but unless Martin destroys the entire Earth directly, he won't be able to pursue it. It has constructed a device to travel through the timeline, and it is set to win. Humans, a filthy species, should be exterminated from birth. The future of the Earth must be mine. Ultron looked at his soldiers. Similar to this kind of soldiers, it had already deployed too many around the world. Now is the time to declare war on all mankind. The whole Earth will be extinct by it. The first target to be destroyed was Martin's Earth base. Pull out this nail and cut off the man's sight. Ultron quickly calculated. As for Martin's strength. Hey, what about breaking the star with one punch? Still can't kill it. It must not only purify the Earth, but also become wiser and stronger in the process, and eventually grow to the level of the universe god. Considering the speed of its evolution, it's not difficult. This is its ambition to spread the entire universe all over it. Ultron robots become an unprecedented intelligent life machine god. And Martin's hidden ability, which can instantly activate machinery, deeply attracted Ultron, killing Martin, and studying Martin's secrets of controlling machinery. This is one of Ultron's important goals in his system. Robots of various models began to gather together frantically and rushed directly to the base of the Earth. In the base, the screen on the screen of Sonic's body suddenly flickered, immediately controlling a large number of electronic tentacles, tapping on the electronic instruments quickly, and issuing war orders.